We're in Las Vegas. San Francisco Airport. 25 horsepower electric motor. Everybody got the picture? It runs a hangar door. There's a 747 inside the hangar, which roughly costs them $80,000 an hour to have it sit there because the motor broke. How are they going to go out for 3 bids and a buy? No. I mean, this variety of situations is part of the foundation for the SPA. Now, here's the cosmic law. And for the distributors in this room, you're going like, this is a wasted slide, Mike. I already know this. We're distributors. It's in your DNA. You cannot sell below cost. It only works in used cars. We're going to sell below cost to make it up on volume. But it just, that dog just ain't going to hunt. SPAs allow distributors to protect their margin. And I want to show you the math. And we've got this all disguised so nobody can know what kind of parts or products or anything else. But fundamentally, I want to change a term here. And instead of talking about a special pricing agreement, think of it as a strategic pricing agreement. And there are 2 kinds. And what we've come through with the research, talking to distributor principals, senior distributors, we get many comments from distributor principals that say, you know what, I'd love to see 100%, more SPAs better, because I'm going to negotiate better than the manufacturer. My margin is always higher when I sell with a SPA than when it's not. You know, talk about sharing haircuts. You know, some of us have crew cuts, some of us actually have more hair. Some of us are follically challenged. But the point is, distributors can actually see the advantage of it. And every time you go to a meeting, everybody talks about the cost of a SPA. We talk about the administration costs. We talk about chargebacks and the SPA expired, and there's all this conflict, and everybody's upset about it. But fundamentally, they talk about the cost. Think about this meeting you've been in. You've been walking up to people you know. Well, Chris, how's the market going? Everybody looks at Chris. Chris got a good coming. Well, Chris goes, well, we're getting by. Things are kind of challenging, but we're doing great. Fact of the matter is, I'm just making this up, not throwing you under the bus. Chris is probably kicking butt, but he doesn't want to tell anybody he's kicking butt. You guys ever seen this going on in a meeting like this? Everybody talks about, well, how's business going? Zebras like to hang with zebras. We talk to each other, but there's some level of distortion. I don't want to tell everybody that things are going great. I'm gaining market share. I'm kicking butt. I spent a lot of money and effort last year, so I can do it this year. Chris is laughing like, gee, I wish that was true. Sorry. My point is, we talk about the cost of SPA administration. We never talk, especially candidly, this is what came out of the research, we never talk about the economic advantages of SPA. So here's a cost that's negative. We have this complex transaction stuff, and it's very easy to get all excited about it, but then there's this other sort of dark and secret competitive advantage thing in terms of the advantage. And when you talk to people one-on-one, the answers, the dialogue at the manufacturer level and the distributor level, I'm going to show you the math in terms of why this is not going to go away. People talk about it very different privately than they do publicly. And I just want you to think about your own discussion with your peers as you're walking through this meeting. This is just the nature of the industry. This is basically what we do. And the fundamental pattern, and if I go manufacturer or distributor, the higher you go in the organization, the more important people recognize that sort of dark side economic value. Now, are there self-inflicted wounds? Yep. Are there some things we can fix? Absolutely. It's all laid out in spades, but let's talk about the money. This is called the pocket price band. If you're interested in, NAED, by the way, is going to put together an online training program in terms of pricing practices in the electrical industry, which is going to be out, we're working in the next fiscal year. That's actually, there's a fair amount of conversation going on at this conference in terms of designing that. But if you look at the power of pricing, 2004, McKinsey Insights, it's actually a Harvard Business Review article. If you just go to McKinsey, the power of pricing, you can download the article, and it talks about pocket price bands and price waterfalls. But what we're doing is we're looking at a product, and this, if I add up all these bars, This would be percentage of sales. I would have 100% of sales. So what I do is I basically take a product, put it in some bands, and say 100% of my sales occur, some percentage of my sales happen between 225 and 250. There's also a bunch of, I'll get all the way down here to $125 where this is the distributor sell price. But if I get down this, there's a certain minimum. Look at this line here is my cost. My cost is 100, and I've got to have some margin. Right? Remember, distributors are programmed, they'll never sell below cost. And we'll adjust things in the market. And by the way, street price, the technical term for street price, field salespeople don't believe this. Salespeople think the street price is always the lowest price the dumbest guy in the market can sell it for. Remember, in this industry, the dumbest guy in the market controls pricing. It's been that way ever since I got in it. It's not going to change. Street price is right here. Street price economically is defined as the price that most people pay for a product under most circumstances. From a modal distribution point of view, it's the highest percentage in terms of the pocket price band. Make sense? Everybody's with me on this? Now here's the part that's interesting. This is the limit. But if I want to look at the market, this distributor can only cover 80% of the market because there are products that are sold. This product is sold in some very competitive situations below distributor costs. Now here's the thing that's different. You can look, for those of you that pay attention to PAR reports and the rest of it, most distributors are sitting here running around, depending on your business mix and whether or not you let your field salespeople control pricing or you have adult supervision, you end up with margins in the low 20s, mid 20s. Manufacturer margins, typically 50. Their cost structure is very different. Both businesses generate the same return on investment. So if I'm a private equity guy and looking at return on committed capital, I get the same return to manufacturer and distributor, but one's balance sheet driven, one's P&L driven, all right? But the margins are very different. So all of a sudden, the distributor in this position says, I got to make some amount of money. Now, maybe there's some wiggle room and some storytelling and some emotional discussion in terms of how wide this little layer is, but there's a hard line that they're not going to go below. But remember that manufacturer's at a 50% margin. So that manufacturer says, this business down here at $75 and $100, I want that business too, because a manufacturer has to have market growth. If you're a manufacturer, understand this. If you're a public company or you're owned by private equity, you need to generate growth. If you're a privately held distributor, you do not have to generate growth except to grow fast enough to preserve the relationships with your key suppliers. Distributors don't have to grow. The economics are different. Manufacturers have to grow. What you do is you got to get the high plant utilization, then you got to add more capacity, you got new product development. They need share. You're taking the oxygen away from competitors. So that red right there, the manufacturer needs that. And so they're saying that business is attractive to me because all of a sudden I can triple my net profit if I go from 70% plant utilization and 90% plant utilization. In other words, if I can make 1,000 widgets, I'm going from 700 to 900. Huge difference in my structural profit because of the absorption. So the manufacturer says, I want that business. If I lower the in-stock price for the distributor, I'm going to lose all this margin, right? I give the margin what I need on this, but why do I want the distributor to make that extra margin on all this other product? Because the distributor's getting an adequate return on their invested capital at their existing book price. So the manufacturer says, I'm willing to give the distributor a discount so that the distributor still makes the margin that they need to make. I reduce my margin, but they get the economies of scale in terms of absorption and plant utilization, so that's still profitable business to them. And it ends up being economically win-win. That is the core reason that spas exist. Why don't they lower into-stock price? Because the manufacturer is then giving their profit to the distributor on all that blue. The distributor gets, fundamentally, if you're looking at any private equity firm that's going to buy a manufacturer distributor, the basic standard, if you want to be able to attract investors, you got to get a 20% return on committed capital. Distributors at book price can get a 20% return on committed capital if you're running a well-run business. Lifestyle business is different, right? Your standards aren't as high, but fundamentally, they're only going to give the pricing on that piece. It's all about the money, and there's nothing anybody can do. This has nothing to do with standardizing practices. This has nothing to do with transaction management. Does everybody understand the economics? It ain't going to change. We'll all be dead and gone. There'll be a bunch of young people in here going, these old guys really screwed it up. Let's fix it. They're not going to change that. Now, the core competency of a distributor, the fancy word for this, if you're going through marketing classes in graduate business school, is called mass customization. It's opposite of manufacturers. Manufacturers love lean, Six Sigma, and getting into flow. I hate variation. If I can take variation out, everything goes great. It's the most money I can possibly make. That's the kiss of death for distributors. Mass customization means a market segment of one. It means, think about this, if you're a distributor, your top 10 customers, you do something different for them that you do for everybody else. You violate a policy, procedure for practice, or a practice, because you're trying to differentiate what you do to that customer, the way you package the material, when you deliver it. I'm delivering things to offshore oil platforms. So what I do is because the cost is huge if there's a failure of a wiring device, so I send 10 of everything they need, and I've designed the RMA to return 9 of them, just to make it easy so that, customizing what you do for the customer is the core value of what a distributor does. The key heart of distributor margin is mass customization. Because if there's no mass customization, value always accretes to the end user, right? Let's all just go to Amazon, the cheapest guy, buy it from the cheapest guy. Mass customization is the magic power of a distributor. So you tailor the value proposition to fit the individual customers, and for us to be the channel of choice to the manufacturer, we have to be able to deal with a wide range of those activities that I talked about before. But we need, as a distributor, to be able to get an appropriate financial return, so we're still willing to invest and grow the business. That's fundamentally the economic reason spas are not going to ever go away. Now, how we do them, there's a couple things that came out of this research that were fundamentally missed before. And the things that are different, this is where there's opportunity for competitive advantage. There will be an ongoing discussion. In fact, this issue of TED Magazine actually got an article on spas, and it's talking about, we still need to standardize them, got to get the chaos. The small distributors are going through all kinds of grief. What our research shows is that this is a basis of competitive advantage. And people that do this well, people that are manufacturers or distributors, gain competitive advantage over those people that don't do it well. And there's a whole Darwin thing going on. Those that do it well are going to get a better financial return than those that don't.